Hi, everyone. Welcome to Interchange. I'm Dan Jones. Thank you so very much for joining us once again. Lots of interesting stuff to talk about today. The country has had a week now to digest all the news about vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan. We'll talk about how he is being received. And we will talk about Tommy Thompson and whether it's just a given that he'll beat Tammy Baldwin. We'll touch on the firing of popular Milwaukee County Parks Director Sue Black, and we'll see what everyone thinks about what looks like it will be the new name of Milwaukee's convention center, the Delta Airlines Center. All right, let me introduce everybody. We have longtime newspaper columnist Joel McNally and Kevin Fischer, former broadcast journalist, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio. You know Denise Callaway, community affairs and public relations professional. And of course, Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert. Rick Horowitz is going to be along with commentary at the end of the show. Okay, the first thing we'll talk about is Congressman Paul Ryan. We've had a week now to see what the country thinks about Mitt Romney's running mate. Lots of things to wonder about. Does he help Romney or hurt Romney? Is he a stronger candidate than Joe Biden? And does he help deliver the swing state of Wisconsin to Romney? How do you think things have progressed so far?
I love it. And the fact that Democrats love a choice like that tells you a lot, I think. He's a young, attractive, good campaigner. If he can carry that off, you know, he might be a slight strength to the ticket. But the real thing that has happened as a result of his choice is the Ryan budget, which is all of the horrible things that Republicans have ever thought about doing to you. That he actually got Republicans in the House to vote for, destroying Medicare, starting to dismantle Social Security, you know, wiping out all kinds of programs, including subsidies for farmers, and you know, there's just an endless list of horrors that as attractive and cute as he is, the Republican Party now has to talk about. Romney, you know, tried to be as vague as possible about what he would do if he were president, and now that option's lost to him because he's tied to these horrible proposals. And I think it's going to make a big difference in the election, but certainly not, you know, the difference that Romney was hoping for. I've seen some of the evaluations from around the country, and the one in Florida said, you know, this probably makes it more likely that Obama could win Florida because of all the old people who don't want Medicare destroyed. Virginia, Ohio, both of those states said, you know, if they'd named the governors of those states, there was a good chance that might pull those states, you know, towards Romney. But since he didn't, you know, it's more likely now that Obama can win them. And in the state of Wisconsin, Paul Ryan only represents an eighth of the state of Wisconsin. He's never run a statewide race here. There's no real indication that he's even going to help, you know, the Romney campaign win Wisconsin.
But Kevin, a lot of folks love him, including the Wall Street Journal, including his district,
right-wing publications.
His district, which is not heavy-duty right-wing, but keeps electing him over and over and over again.
And Joel needs to read the papers in the last couple of days. New polls show Romney ahead in Ohio, Romney ahead in Pennsylvania, and Romney ahead in guess where? Oh my goodness, Florida. He brings Paul Ryan. You know, normally the vice presidential pick, there's an initial bump. And there was here because more people know about Paul Ryan now. A lot of people did not know about Paul Ryan.
They're going to find out.
And they do now. His name recognition has gone up from the high 30s to like 50% now. Paul Ryan, I think, does make an impact on this ticket, which up until last Sunday or last Saturday was pretty vanilla, was pretty bland. And he has even energized the top of the ticket. This is a new Pitbull-like energetic campaigner that we're seeing in Mitt Romney. Paul Ryan brings youth, energy, vitality, a freshness to this campaign. Ironically, some of the same qualities that Barack Obama brought to the Democratic campaign 4 years ago. He's also highly intellectual, sharp on all the issues, very attractive, as Joel pointed out. And Scott Walker told reporters in Milwaukee this week at an event I attended that the more you get to know Paul Ryan, the more you like him. Now, the Democrats will demonize and attack his Medicare plan and his budget. We know that. And let's have that debate. Let's talk about Medicare and let's talk about that issue. Bring it on, because the Romney-Ryan plan does not affect anyone over 55. The Obama plan does, and Obama gutted Medicare by taking $717 billion away to fund his
$717 billion from hospitals and doctors that they have agreed to take.
But I didn't interrupt Joel. He takes $717 billion away from Medicare to fund his pet project, Obamacare. Try to explain that to Grandma when the President of the United States takes away your health care to fund Obamacare.
You can explain it because the money's not coming from the elderly. The money's not coming from their programs.
Paul Ryan stealing any votes from Obama?
No.
Not at all.
I don't, because I think that the one thing about this particular race is that it clearly defines the two parties. You have,
yes, it does. You're right. You're right.
You've had the ability with a vice presidential pick to do something that I don't know that you've had happen in recent history, and that is to really energize Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are energized by this choice because they say, you know, it's very, very clear what Paul Ryan stands for. It's absolutely clear, and it could not be more different from what Democrats want. This is the problem that Republicans are going to experience with Paul Ryan. When you take a look at independent voters and you take a look at what's important to independent voters and what they support, it is not aligned with Paul Ryan. And as we become more and more polarized in this country, Democrats are given to vote for President Obama. Governor Romney is going to get the Republicans. It's the independents in the middle. And Paul Ryan is not an in-the-middle kind of candidate. But that's the problem they're going to have.
Hasn't he shown repeatedly he can get people in the middle?
And this is part of what this election is going to have to demonstrate is that if once people get down to the core of the realities of the Obama health care plan and the Ryan budget plan that addresses entitlements, I think you're going, as long as we don't resort to sound bites and snippets of truth, I think what you're going to see are regular Americans sitting back and taking a look at both of those plans and deciding that the real plan is the Ryan plan, which saves those entitlements that they enjoy now without this expansion of entitlements that the country cannot afford. I think Ryan is going to. For example, you mentioned the $700 billion that doctors have agreed. They agree on the cut every year. They agree on that cut because every year Congress restores the money.
But that's
the reason why you don't have doctors. That's the reason why you don't have doctors that have been horribly upset about taking that cut, which was in the Obama health care plan, because they knew that in the past, every time that had been stuck in the congressional budget, it was restored by Congress, and so they were made whole.
They're not upset because they know that people will be able to pay their bills because they have insurance.
We're done.
Because the $700 billion has been thrown around, and this is quick, the only thing I have to say, cutting $700 billion from Medicare is also in Ryan's budget.
All right.
And you mentioned Joe Biden. I'll be quick. You mentioned Joe Biden and you're open. I'd rather have Paul Ryan than a stumbling, bumbling, fumbling, senile fool. Like Joe Biden.
Oh, thanks for keeping it on the high road. It's what I expected of you.
Next topic. So Tommy Thompson wins the right to take on Democrat Tammy Baldwin for the U.S. Senate. Some people are just assuming that Tommy is the favorite, but I think they're underestimating Tammy Baldwin's ability to raise money, a lot of money. But is Thompson going to be able to match that? I mean, you're a buddy.
She'll raise a lot of money, and he will match that money that she raises. The National Republican Party has made Wisconsin one of the targeted states for regaining the Senate. And so whatever money Tammy Baldwin brings in, Thompson will be able to also match. But keep in mind, he was able to also win because of name recognition in the primary that he just won. And she's never run for statewide office, no more than Paul Ryan had run for statewide office. This is her first attempt at it. She's probably less known in Milwaukee than even Paul Ryan was, whose district abuts Milwaukee directly. So I would I would say that not only will he have the resources to run a good campaign, he knows the issues well. He knows health care 100% better than Tammy Baldwin does. He knows those national issues around entitlements because he's dealt with entitlements as a governor and as a national secretary for Health and Human Services. I just don't think she's going to beat him on the issues, and I don't think she's going to have the resources to get a message out there that can beat him.
The election's a long way away, but a poll out today shows Thompson with a huge lead.
Well, you know, I think the thing that happened is, of course, there was a lot more word out there about Tommy Thompson because he was running against 3 other Republicans, and there were both negative and positive ads out there about him. You got to remember, this is someone who we talk, about of having great name recognition, somebody who the party knows well, and 65% of Republicans did not vote for Governor Thompson.
Not one of them will vote for Tammy Baldwin.
But that's the point is, this is going to be about whether or not you can energize your base, whether or not people see you as a candidate of the future or someone who has done some wonderful things for this state, but who may not be the person that they see being able to move us forward. You know, one of the things that struck me about Governor Thompson, and I like Governor Thompson. I'm going to admit that in the past I have voted for him when he was governor. I wonder when he became so angry. I mean, I have to tell you, that was the thing that really struck me as I was watching him on election night. And I think that if there's, you know, something that we can take away from this is that people in this state are tired of the bickering. They're tired of that effort. I think that Tammy Baldwin brings something that's fresh. She brings a new perspective. As she has said repeatedly, she's not worried about taking our country back. And we should have a discussion about what that actually means, because to me that is a very uncomfortable little bit of coding, to be quite honest with you. She is someone who said she's focused on doing what needs to be done for Wisconsin. Not for Wall Street, not for big business, but for Wisconsin. And that is a message that resonates with people.
If this was the only race on the ballot, it would be one thing. But because the presidential race is on the ballot, if a Democrat wins, if Obama wins, does that mean that Baldwin wins? If Romney wins, does that mean that Thompson wins?
So coattails, in other words. If Romney wins Wisconsin, I think Romney wins the presidential race, and then Tommy wins the Senate race. But I think regardless of what happens on the presidential scene, I think Tommy Thompson is the clear favorite. I think he's going to win rather easily because, talk about your name recognition. Reading Mother Jones, of all publications this week, they sent a reporter up north, and that reporter came back and said, look, nobody knows her up there. She's got her work cut out for her. Then she has a record that can be torn apart. It's okay to be a liberal Democrat, really is. But this is a campaigner. Joel likes to use the word extreme. This woman is on another planet. She's in another galaxy. Oh. You take a look at the record, the most liberal, I know Joel likes that, the most liberal member in the House. I don't think that represents what the voters of Wisconsin really want, the voters who put Scott Walker in not once, but twice. And you talk about the base. Tommy Thompson has the Republican base, right, and he also scares the bejeebers out of the Democrats because he has that uncanny ability to reach out to independents and crossovers. That's why I think Tammy Baldwin has her work cut out for her.
This is not the same Tommy Thompson who ran for governor. That is a huge difference.
Is she the best candidate the Democrats could have come up with?
She's a very good candidate, and she's a very good campaigner. I'll tell you what she's got going for her. She's got a bunch of things going for her. One is that, and Denise touched on it, Tommy Thompson, whose name was equivalent with Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, could only win 1/3 of the vote in a Republican primary.
There were 4 candidates, Joel, do the math.
Primary. But I'm telling you, all of us expected him from the start to win, and he did win, but only 1/3 of Republicans voted for him. Now, and the other thing is,
name one that won't vote for him.
Let me tie this to the presidential election, which was a question he asked you. Every single poll of Wisconsin and across the nation of Obama's likelihood to be reelected, says that one of the big things he has going for him is an enormous gap of women voting for him instead of Romney. And that's going to help Tammy a lot in Wisconsin as well. And here's the problem that Tommy has, and Denise touched on this too. A lot of people liked Tommy when he was governor. And a lot of Democrats recognized that he was not a bad person, that he was actually a pretty decent person and a moderate that worked with Democrats on things. He is so out of step with today's Republican Party. That's why they ran 3 candidates against him. The Tea Party was running around Wisconsin trying to beat him, and right-wing groups were running ads against him.
They threw the kitchen sink at him and still lost.
And in order to win, Tommy Thompson had to deny every good thing he's ever done in this state, and he had to pretend to be just as right-wing as the Tea Party is today.
I don't think he denied.
Joel, he never has been. But,
Joel, you're wrong. He didn't deny tax cuts.
Campaign on lying about his record.
He didn't deny tax cuts. He didn't deny school choice. He didn't deny any of those great things he did as governor.
He's denied health care that he supported, including this Obama plan.
He's never supported
that. He never supported
the Obamacare.
He's never supported that.
Next topic. Lots of talk around Milwaukee about the firing of very popular County Parks Director Sue Black. We don't know a lot of the facts. She said she wasn't given a reason, but County Executive Chris Abele says, yes, she was, though he's not going to talk about it. What's so surprising is that Abele had repeatedly praised her and bragged about how good of a job she was doing at running the park. So that's why I think everybody's like, whoa, that's pretty surprising.
I agree. I think that's why everyone was so stunned. He, in fact, during his campaign, held her up as someone who kept getting her budget cut by County Executive Walker. And he said, this is the kind of job you should be rewarding. And she's won national awards. She obviously has a great image in this community. And the county executive cannot get by with just saying, well, yeah, I fired her because no one has a job forever. He just talked her out of taking a job running the Chicago Parks District just a few months ago. And he's given her several raises since she's been in that job. And suddenly, out of the blue, she's gone. There is a reason. Obviously, there is a reason. This is not a man who does something for no reason. And the reason is known at this point by Chris Abele and by Sue Black, but they're not the only people that know it. And it will come out.
You think it'll eventually come out?
Oh, I think it'll eventually come out. But the other thing is that when you are serving with the county executive or with the mayor, and you are in a position like Sue Black's, you serve at the pleasure of. And obviously there was something that happened that caused him to think, to believe, and to act on the fact that he did not believe that she was any longer the best person for that position. It'll come out. But the reality of it is, maybe saying nobody has a job forever wasn't the best way to say it, but she does serve at the pleasure of the county executive.
I think it's fair to assume that Chris Abele is not used to having people around him who don't kiss his ring. And at the same time, it's probably fair to assume that Sue Black is not the type of person that does much ring kissing.
Well, there must have been a heck of a lot of offset that led him to make this abrupt decision. Clearly, it wasn't something that over a long period of time or after a lot of consultation he decided to do because he would have laid better groundwork for it. The reaction from the chair of the County Board's Parks Committee is an indication of the rough relationship that he is going to have even going forward, if it wasn't rough seas already, getting his next nominee through. They're going to scrutinize whomever, maybe to the point of where it will scare off potential good candidates. There's also the budget that he has to prepare and move through the county board, and he's not. And frankly, with regards to the larger chunk of that budget being parks, he doesn't have an advocate on that board for him now that's going to be able to move his whole budget through without a lot of resistance. So I think that it was a hastily made decision, not well thought out, unless there was something that was unethical or illegal. And again, I think you all were right. All that will come out because that's not the kind of stuff you can keep quiet or secret for very long. And if that's the case, then people will give him some latitude. But if that's not the case, and this was just, I'm the boss and I can do it, I think that it doesn't bode well for his administration being able to move a lot of initiatives forward.
And Kevin, it's really not fair to talk about rumors and innuendo, but when you have such a high-profile position, she's probably one of the few Milwaukee County employees that everybody knows. You have to talk about it.
Well, I'm uncomfortable talking about this, quite frankly, tonight, because none of us know, and it's pure speculation, and that makes me a little leery about this. Denise is right. You serve at the will of the county executive. She was not elected. You're right. Very popular. In fact, Chris Abley said, up till now, has said all kinds of rosy things about her. On my way to the studio here today,
you heard a commercial.
Ironically, I heard the ad for the Milwaukee Domes Arts Festival this weekend, in which 4 or 5 times Sue Black's name is mentioned, and her praises are sung. I think because if this was any other bureaucrat, we wouldn't be talking about this. But she is popular. She was effective. She was well liked, and to not offer a reason, I think he is inviting backlash and criticism. He could have put this all to rest if he would have just come out and said, "This is why I'm doing it."
Right. All right. Next topic. Let's just touch on it for a minute. There have been reports this week that an announcement is coming soon that Milwaukee's Convention Center will be renamed the Delta Airlines Center. Kind of disappointing that a local company like Northwestern Mutual or Miller Brewing didn't think it was important to buy the rights to name the big center.
Well, whatever the new name is, I think they ought to put on maybe a blackboard or a Etch-a-Sketch or something so that they can change it.
The next one?
Given the airline industry these days, I think tying yourself to an airline, they're all going down, and Delta is not considered in any great shakes financially.
Could be worse. It could be Mecca. Could be the Mecca Center again.
Joe's Bar and Grill.
Yeah, I don't know. You might be better off with Joe's Bar and Grill. I think the idea of naming after an airline, really? How many times have we had to scratch off the names of airlines to this? You know, I understand that it's important for naming rights to take place, in large part because it brings in money. But, you know, I'll tell you, we're going to be sitting here within the year talking about how it's not Delta Airlines Center anymore, because Joel's right. Delta's not in the best financial setting
And I think we've
either.
become desensitized. When it was Midwest Express and then they got out of it, it was a big deal. We talked about it. It hurt because it was the local guys leaving. I think people now don't regard this as such a big deal.
I'm going to take a different tact. I think that it bodes well in this sense. It signals, as a marketing effort on the part of Delta, their commitment to be at Mitchell International for at least a year. Because they're sinking some significant dollars into marketing their name in a downtown facility. And typically they don't do that. Now, what's bad about it is that they've signaled this before in other communities and they haven't followed
Well, they
through.
better get me where I want to go, and they better get my bags there.
I'd just be happy to leave it there on time. That's all.
All right. All right, back to national politics for just a minute. Every time you think Wisconsin can't possibly stay at the center of the political universe, something else happens to keep the spotlight right here. Now it's a Wisconsinite as a presidential running mate. That certainly caught Rick Horowitz's attention. Rick.
This is so exciting. Really. I mean, I'm still doing the research, but I'm pretty sure that Paul Ryan is the first major party candidate for vice president who has ever asked me to keep an eye on his luggage while he went to the men's room. True. So you can understand why I'm so pumped, right? And that's even before you get to Paul Ryan, the deficit hawk, grabbing $1 million or so in earmarks for the Ice Age National Scenic Trail right here in Wisconsin. That's right, the Ice Age National Scenic Trail. Bridge to nowhere, anyone? They say it's a choice election now, and they're right about that. So choose your bumper sticker. Obama and Biden say we're all in this together. Romney and Ryan, every man for himself. Hey, but Paul Ryan has boyish good looks, right? Great. So did babyface Ralph Reed over on the religious right. Didn't stop him from doing Jack Abramoff's dirty work. Paul Ryan has a friendly smile. That's nice, but a smile can hide plenty of scary policies, plenty of numbers that don't add up. Paul Ryan's in great shape. Swell, but that's not much consolation when you get sick, when someone in your family gets sick. See, Paul Ryan says he wants to get the government out of people's lives. Of course, the government includes the schools and the cops and the highways and the hospitals. He says we need huge cuts in our health care programs, Medicare and Medicaid, because they're running out of money. So how about raising some more money so tens of millions of people don't lose their care? He won't hear of it. In Paul Ryan's world, taxes, at least rich people's taxes, move in only one direction, down. He says he's protecting those programs, preserving them, by dismantling them. You know, folks of a certain age still remember we had to destroy the village to save it. It doesn't make any more sense now than it did back then. I don't know, maybe it's easier to believe in self-reliance when you come from a well-to-do family, when you can tap into a network of mega-millionaire donors to advance your political career. Paul Ryan says his blood runs with cheese and bratwurst and good Wisconsin beer. He could use a few pints of compassion.
Thanks, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of a beautiful weekend.